I think that quarterback battle in Columbus right now is one of, if not the most interesting and intriguing position battles in all of college football. CJ Stroud is largely thought to be the leader in the clubhouse. Remember, Justin Fields is off to the draft. Depending on which mock draft you look at, that depends on where he's going to be taken. But rest assured, and I'm going to go ahead and break this news now, he's going to be drafted somewhere. And so he's not going to be in Columbus this year. So CJ Stroud, many assume that he's the leader in the clubhouse. I am among them. But I just want to tell you, I don't view this job as being locked up. I don't think that coaching staff views this job as being locked up externally or amongst themselves internally. Because Jack Miller's a guy that they ultimately think they could win with, and Kyle McCord is also a guy they think they could win with. Now, it certainly behooves the Ohio State program to maintain competition for as long as you can, even if that thing's realistically decided, and I think we all know why that is. You don't want to wake up in the middle of July and have a couple of guys transferring on you. But pressure is a good thing. Competition is a good thing. We don't ever use the term or the phrase quarterback controversy around here. The only controversy you could have in your quarterback room is when you don't have one. When you got one or more that you can win with, that you trust to go into battle with, that's not a controversy. That's a good thing. That's competition. So I want to go beyond the quarterback position because as I told you, had some really good conversations with some folks out of Columbus. I want you to focus on a name for me. Buckeye fans probably know the name, but outside of Columbus, I don't think a lot of people know the name Mayan Williams. You know my affinity by now for Iowa State. And so you're going to know my affinity for Mayan Williams. They almost had him at Iowa State. Mayan Williams had been committed to Iowa State, and he's an Ohio kid. And Ryan Day and company, they had targeted some higher on the board targets in their recruiting war room, and they weren't going to get a guy like Kendall Milton, for example. They weren't going to get him. And so then they, because they're Ohio State, they pick up the phone and they call him. And they say, Mayan, we got a spot for you. And so they get him. This was going to be a kid who was going to be like another Breece Hall if he went to Iowa State. Instead, he's at Ohio State. He's not going to get lost in the shuffle there. Mayan Williams has been about as good a performer pound for pound as anybody on that team during spring. They could not be more ecstatic. And I know there's been some positive reviews. He's been better than the positive reviews that you've read. Let me just put it that way. But having said that, see, it sounds like I'm saying, oh, that's a slam dunk number one starter. I don't even know if he's going to start for him. Master Teague's had a little bit of injury concern this spring, so he's gotten a lot of their first team reps. But, I mean, lest we forget, we got a guy named Travion Henderson in this room. We got Evan Pryor in this room. We're just talking about the whole offense here. They are loaded. Ohio State's loaded. I know this is no breaking news, but there's a second part to that little equation that I want to talk about more in just a second. But when you shift over, so we're in the running back room, and wow, look at all these good players. So then all right, come on, let's go. And then we go down the hallway, and then we go to the wide receiver room. And then you say, Garrett Wilson, you're still here? Chris Olave, you're still here. And then you say, but wait a minute. Don't they have that Jackson Smith and Jigba kid? Yeah. Remember him from a couple of classes back? Yeah, who's the other guy? Julian Fleming? Don't they still have him? Yeah, he was another guy with about 5 stars next to his name. Okay, well, that's it, right? No, because then you hear 3 more names. You hear about Marvin Harrison Jr., and you hear about Jaden Ballard, who that's a name I'm circling. Mayan Williams, and Jaden Ballard. I got someone texting me. That's very distracting. Jaden Ballard and William, those are 2 names I've circled because those are 2 names that they go out of their way to talk about at Ohio State. And then there's one more. You remember when we were sitting at this desk, and it was National Signing Day, and we welcomed in several players. Among them was Emeka Egbuka. He was only the number 1 wide receiver in the country. All these guys, this is not a lineage. This is not like the past decade of Ohio State football. All these guys are on the roster right now. They're all going to be there this fall. So you got a loaded quarterback room. You got a loaded running back room. You got a loaded wide receiver room. The natural question that you and myself and Director Emeritus Colin, when I walked in the door today and started talking to him about this, is they going to be able to stop anybody? Because the last time I saw them in the national championship game, they weren't stopping anybody. Remains to be seen. I can just assure you they're going to be able to score. And they certainly don't feel like they've gotten worse defensively. And to his credit, Ryan Day shook up that coaching staff defensively and really shook up his coaching staff in general. Still got that experience, mixed in and blended in, a lot of youth and energy too. Talked about all that already. I really love what they did. But I want you to just to kind of think about what we have here as we exit spring. Ohio State's got a spring game Saturday too. If the SEC slate wasn't already loaded enough, you got that team in Columbus. They're going to have a spring game too. They're loaded. That's as loaded a team as any team in America you're going to see this year. But unlike the Alabamas or even the Clemsons of the world, this program right here has as loaded a roster as you're going to see, and they also have that voice in the back of their head that says, you haven't won anything. Because, yeah, they've won the Big Ten, but they have higher aspirations than that. And as for those higher aspirations, they haven't done anything. They've gotten there. They hadn't done anything. So that's a dangerous combination. History tells us that's a dangerous combination. That's a dangerous team. Ohio State, they feel really, really good. Exiting spring, this is the kind of situation. I know they haven't decided quarterback yet, but this is the kind of situation where they've got a lot of that team that they wish they could just hit the pause button on or put it in the cryogenics freezer and just thaw it out with about 2 weeks to go until they open because they feel really good about where they're at.